Jane Smith, CIPD number 8402827. Hello Lisa, my name is Helen Smith and I'm the HR manager here at Jemmy Joe. Thank you for attending your interview today. Please can I ask that your mobile phone is either on silent or switched off, but are you expecting any urgent calls today?
No.
I'm not expecting a fire drill today. However, if the fire alarm does sound, please get your belongings and follow me and I'll show you to the most nearest fire exit. Let's hope we don't have a fire drill. I know. So thank you for coming today and coming in person. And the post you've applied for is a people assistant here at Jemmy Joe. The interview will consist of me asking you some questions, and at the end you'll have the opportunity to ask me any questions. The questions format will be you giving me examples of anything within your current role or any previous roles that you feel is suitable to respond to the question. So at any time, if you need me to repeat a question or you don't understand how I've asked the question, please do ask me. Is that okay?
Yeah, I've just brought a couple of notes with me, Helen. Is it okay?
Absolutely. Yes, no, that's absolutely fine.
Just to prompt me, that's all.
That's perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Just to check, you have seen the job description when you applied for the post?
Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. We'll get started. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Try and relax.
I don't like interviews.
So please don't be nervous. So question number 1 is, at Jemmy Joe, we support over 2,500 employees, and a large number of them are based in a busy call centre where queries come in quickly. Can you give me an example where you've had to manage multiple tasks at once, how you prioritise and make sure everything was completed on time? I am going to make some notes, Lisa, as you're talking, yeah. So I will be looking down but still looking at you as well.
Yeah, okay. No, so I mean, working within the NHS, I do regularly have to manage several different tasks at any one time. For example, during busy periods, which is on a day-to-day basis, if I'm honest, Helen, I am responsible for responding to staff queries, processing administrative paperwork and supporting managers with urgent requests. Now, to stay organised, I assess each task based on urgency and impact. So I prioritise anything that affects, I suppose, patient services or staff pay, because they're really it's an emotive topic.
Yes,
that we're talking particularly staff pay. And then I schedule time for routine admin work. I also keep a task list and regularly update stakeholders on progress where I need to, because I also get involved in a lot of casework.
Okay.
And I manage multiple kind of queries, let's say. So it's important because every stakeholder believes their work to be a priority. So I think it's about managing your priorities, but also engaging with them so that if timescales need to change and you need to reprioritise, you have to make them aware of that and the reason why, and then they're more likely to accept that as well, Helen. But I find by remaining organised and communicating clearly that I'm able to complete my deadlines on time and maintain accuracy, which is extremely important in a people advisor role, because it can have a knock-on impact in a lot of different areas. It's important, obviously, to, as I've said, plan, prioritise, and again, stay calm under pressure, and that's how I deal with that on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you. It can be difficult sometimes to stay calm under pressure, can't it? Especially when you've got people coming in at you at all angles and everyone thinks their query is urgent, isn't it? That can be quite taxing at times.
Yeah, it's really, really fast paced. You can be dealing with one point and then someone else has come for something else. So it's about managing and setting expectations, because you have to get through the work. It's just about the order in which you get through it and being organised whilst you're doing that, I think.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Lisa. In this role here at Jemmy Joe, you will have access to confidential staff data and queries. Can you tell me about a time where you've had to deal with sensitive or private information, and what do you do to make it secure?
Yeah, so in my current role, I do frequently handle confidential employee information, which includes their personal details, employment records, and sensitive correspondence. And that's on a day-to-day basis. So one example involved processing documentation relating to an employee's personal circumstances that I've been involved in. So it was important that this information remained secure and was only shared with authorised individuals. So I ensure documents are stored within secure systems. So that would be the HR drives, which is locked down to only individuals within people services. That's the area that I work in. I make sure I follow the GDPR principles, rules, and organisational policies, and I avoid discussing any information in public areas. So, and again, information may need to be discussed on a need to know basis. If I'm having to obtain information to answer what the employee is asking me, but it's on a need to know basis, it's not to be shared with a wider group of people. I understand confidentiality. Obviously, it's essential in the area that we work in within HR because employees trust our team, sensitive information, and I always treat personal data with professionalism.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Employees at Jemmy Jaw often contact the people team with questions. Tell me about a time when you've handled a query from a colleague, a customer, or a member of the public, and how did you respond and what was the outcome?
Okay, so a colleague contacted me regarding an issue they were experiencing with documentation that they needed urgently. Obviously, they were understandably concerned because it was impacting the progress of their request. I think it was for a mortgage. They were wanting some pay information and employment history. So I listened carefully to understand obviously what the issue was, asked questions to clarify the details to make sure I'd taken what it was that we were wanting down correctly, and I checked the relevant records for them. After identifying the cause, when I say cause, I mean after identifying the information that they needed and visiting the relevant systems that we use, I explained the situation clearly, and I provided them with the information that they needed in terms of start date. So we're a little bit unsure about how long they've been here, annual salary information, and so on and so on, which resolved the issue, and they were able to share the information with whoever it was that they needed to share it with. So it was resolved quickly, timely, and they thanked me for keeping them informed whilst they were speaking to me and sharing the information with them.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you. Recruitment is important to Jemmy Jaw as we employ quite a large number of people in our customer service roles. Can you describe an experience where you supported recruitment or an event, for example, arranging interviews, dealing with candidates, or helping with the paperwork?
Yeah. So I'll use an example, Helen, actually, that was prior to me joining. So it was my job before the NHS, because I did assist with recruitment activities on a number of occasions. There was an occasion where I was involved in recruiting and coordinating interviews for a complaint handler role within a financial services organisation. My responsibilities included arranging interviews. So that was telephone interviews, face-to-face interviews, sending invites out for them, confirming their attendance. So that was ringing them the day before their interview to make sure they were still attending, ensuring the necessary paperwork was available, not only from our point of view, but educating them on what they needed to bring to their interview for screening purposes, so it didn't delay the recruitment process. Obviously, attention to detail is needed because you're scheduling a lot of interviews, so you need to make sure that time's allocated for the interviews, you've got people to interview, and the candidates know where they're coming to, so sharing that kind of information with them. What we also did was we held open days for when we put the job out to advertise. we held open days so that any interested candidates could come and speak to the people already doing that role, so that they understood it in a little bit more detail before they applied, so they knew what to expect on a day-to-day basis, because the complaint handler role in that particular work area is quite complex, it's challenging, and they're really, really difficult queries that they get. So as a result of me doing that, interviews ran smoothly. Candidates were kept informed throughout the process, and managers were able to focus on selecting the best candidates. And we got a better calibre of candidates that applied because of the open day. And I enjoyed supporting that because it gave me insight into how important effective administration is when you're attracting people to come to the recruitment process.
I find that you did the open day really interesting. So what led to you wanting to do that open day for people to come? Was there a specific reason?
There was a couple of reasons. So one was the recent recruitment strategy that had been used. When we attracted people, they'd left within about 4 to 6 weeks of them joining. Through analysis, it was job shock because they didn't realise how complex the work was. I think they thought it was more of a customer service role. Well, it was a complaint role, so it was customer service, but able to resolve complaints. So we did lose quite a lot of people in what we call early life stages of their employment. And also we struggled to attract people as well. So we thought, let's showcase what the role's about and let's get them to talk to all people who are actually doing it on a day-to-day basis.
I think that's a fantastic idea, and it also gives people the opportunity to showcase their work and their job, and they can have those informal conversations around what's it like to work here. I think that's an excellent thing to do.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
It gives some really good morale to people doing it. Yeah, it did work well.
Brilliant. The people team supports different departments across Jemmy Joe, from call centres to IT and finance, so quite a variety of people. Can you give me an example where you've worked as part of a team to achieve a goal, and what was your role within that team and what was the result?
Yeah, so one that sticks out is when I was an investigating officer, and I'd been asked to pick up a disciplinary investigation, but the investigation related to a team that I hadn't worked with before, so they were like a subsidiary of the trust. So I didn't understand kind of their roles, responsibilities, and the work that they undertook, and it was important for me to do that because I was the lead on a disciplinary investigation. So what I did is I reached out to the team, and I set up some time to spend with the different departments. So that went across HR, operations, procurement, medical services, just really to understand their processes, the roles and responsibilities, and what it was that people shouldn't be doing within the role. And part of the me commissioning an investigation meant I had to create what we call terms of reference, which scopes out the actual investigation. In order to do that, I need to understand the processes within an area.
Yes.
So that I can apply fact to the allegations when I'm going through the investigation. So I had a number of different meetings with the different teams within that area through different channels, through face to face, but because they travel a lot, Teams, followed up with some emails. But that enabled me to be able to create the terms of reference, which was then shared with the individual who concerns had been raised against. And I was able to progress successfully with the investigation and share obviously the key findings with the case manager who was assigned to it.
Lovely. So with the terms of reference you referred to there, does that show the individual the transparency around what that investigation is going to be about, and they understand, as you've described there, the scope of the investigation, so they know what's going to be covered? And within that terms of reference, do you talk around who you're going to be meeting with, and so they've got an understanding of the whole the whole package.
Yeah, so we talk through the background of how we've got to where we've got to. And again, you're right, it's to be really transparent with the individual, because at that point it's an allegation, it's not a fact. So we talk through the background of how we've got to where we've got to, talk through what the allegations and the concerns raised are. The scope of the investigation also, it includes questions that we'll be looking at in order to gather the information. So whether that's speaking with the teams, speaking to the individual, but also speaking to other witnesses, as well. And really just setting expectations on next steps following the investigation being completed.
That's great. Thank you very much. Sometimes in HR we come across issues, as I'm sure you do in your day, in your working life. For example, an error in payroll or an employee needing urgent support. I think you touched on that earlier on around your mortgage application, but
Yeah.
can you tell me about a time when you yourself have noticed a problem and took steps to solve that, rather than someone come to you with a problem, you've spotted something and you've progressed with it?
Yeah, actually, it was recently within the role that I'm doing now within the NHS. I was getting ready to complete a sickness review meeting with a member of staff, and I'd collated all of the information in terms of absence details, how long they'd been off, and I was also looking at when they were going to go to half pay and what we call nil pay.
Yeah.
Because that's depending on how long they've been off for, how long they've been within the trust. I noticed they'd been off for a significant period of time, and the system, it's called Health Roster, what we use.
Okay.
It was telling me that their half pay was going to go from, I think it was the 1st of August, 2nd of August, something like that, which didn't look right based on the time that they'd been off, because I would have made the assumption at that point that they shouldn't have been getting any pay.
Okay.
I also noticed that there'd been some data error inputs into Health Roster, so it looked like the individual had returned for a day.
Right, okay.
When that wasn't the case. So obviously I knew I needed to investigate that before I spoke to the individual. So I liaised with the manager firstly, and I queried the discrepancy with the dates. The manager had confirmed that actually that individual hadn't been returned, so the date of return should never have been keyed in. Right. So it was as though they hadn't been off for the last month and a half.
Ooh.
So with that information, I went and spoke to payroll. So we sat down together and we worked through all of their absences. And it turned out that the individual had been overpaid by £4,000.
Goodness me.
So after it was worked out, I needed to have a conversation with the individual, because obviously pay is very emotive, and £4,000 is a lot of money to have to pay back. So
absolutely is.
I knew it was going to be a difficult conversation. So I had a call with the individual. I explained the circumstances. I was transparent in terms of what had happened. We talked through the process of what reclaiming the funds would look like. On a gradual basis. And I also advised that we'd write out and let her know the finer detail in terms of how it had happened as well. So I was able to pick up that error, but obviously stop it at that point before
yes
anything further.
It escalated
any further.
I can imagine that was quite a difficult conversation to have with the employee.
Yeah, they were really upset, but we managed to talk it through and come to a resolution that worked for both of us.
Oh, that's excellent. One more question. At Jemmy Joe, some staff work fully remote, some work in offices, and there's others that do a little bit of both, hybrid working. What challenges do you think this creates for HR, and how would you support employees in these different settings?
So I think the biggest challenge is making sure all employees feel that they're equally supported regardless of where they work. And I think communication is probably the biggest challenge when you've got people working across different areas, and whether it's hybrid, remote, or a bit of both, office based as well. Because everyone has different communication needs. So as a people assistant, I think it's important to ensure communication is clear, consistent, and accessible to everyone. So, for example, when you're coming in on a morning, if you're working in the office, it's easy to say to someone, isn't it? Oh, good morning, how are you?
Yeah.
And strike up a conversation.
Mhm.
Whereas it's not so easy if someone's home-based. However, you can bring in different methods of doing that. So it could be setting up Teams channels or reaching out to them on a day-to-day basis, just picking up the phone and saying, oh, morning, how are you? How are you feeling this morning? Before we make a start on work, is there any challenges you've got? Anything I need to know about? And I think that works. Well, when we talk about communication, it's important because if you're in a working environment in the office, for example, and something happens that's going to escalate, sometimes an email communication doesn't come out for a couple of hours
Yes.
hours later. So that's why I think it's really important to have certain touch points during the day with individuals that are hybrid or that are working from home, and a means of open communication, whether that's via Teams or however you choose to do it, so that queries can be answered, timely and efficiently. Because the last thing you want is people to feel isolated whilst they're working at home.
Yes.
You need to try and bring that office environment that you've had to the different areas that you work.
You do. You touched there about Teams, and I know that people use Teams a lot more now, particularly after COVID. What's your experience with people not wanting cameras on? So you've touched earlier on around you were doing a sickness absent meeting. So say, for example, you're doing a sickness absence meeting with somebody who was a remote worker.
Yeah.
How would you encourage them to have their camera on for that? Because some people are camera shy, aren't they? They don't.
Yeah, they are, and we've had a lot of challenges with that, if I'm being honest. Because people don't like to switch the cameras on. I think it's important to just, the way I approach that situation is I'm transparent on why I'm asking them to put the camera on in the first place. This isn't to try and trip anyone up or catch anyone out. It's really for their health and well-being, to make sure that whilst they're working at home, I can make sure that they're okay when we're having a conversation, because whilst you can see someone in the office environment, you can't see someone if they don't have the camera on.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand their body language, also to get a feel of how they're doing.
Yeah.
As well. And I think you can pick a lot up from doing that.
Yes.
But just being honest about it.
Yeah.
Again, it's not trying to catch people out.
Absolutely not. No, that's great. Thank you so much, Lisa. And now, do you have any questions for me about the role, the people team, or Jemmy Joe as an organisation in itself?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of understand what you enjoy most about working within this organisation.
Oh, I've never asked that question. Thank you, Lisa. What do I love about working here at Jemmy Joe? I enjoy the variety of the work. As I've explained before, we have people in different sectors within the organisation, and I like dealing with different individuals and different personalities. But I think overall, as a company, to work for an organisation, it's fantastic. There's great benefits to working here. The culture here is fantastic. It's just generally a really, really nice place to work. Don't get me wrong, I have challenging days as we all do, but overall there's a great team spirit here, and that's from the top down. And it's a great culture. It's just a very enjoyable place to work.
I bet no day's ever the same.
They're not, and you'll know that if you've worked in HR yourself. You could come in one day with a set task of things to do, and within that first phone call, the first email, your whole day has changed. But that's what I think makes it enjoyable. And I think for me, I get the most job satisfaction out of helping somebody.
Yeah.
So some of your examples there were fantastic. So the one around a mortgage, I've recently just moved house, and I know how intense that can be. And by dealing with that individual, getting them that relevant information, get it to them quickly, that can just avoid any kind of stress to an individual. And it can get that process moving in quicker. So I think I just really enjoy being here for people, and just helping them.
Yeah.
And I like, but I also, on the other side, I like to safeguard the organisation as well.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, I just very much enjoy working here.
Well, you can tell.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you can tell you like working here, but no, I don't have any other questions.
Okay, well, thank you for your time today, Lisa. We have other candidates that we need to meet with. I do hope to get back to you by close of play today.
Yeah.
The phone number on your application form, is that still the same phone number?
It is.
Brilliant. Am I right to contact you on that?
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. So thank you very much for your time today, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you.